For the last 3 months, we've watched our globalist leaders manipulate us with the Marxist revolutionary technique known as the Hegelian dialectic. It's a very complicated philosophical thing, but it can actually be salted down to about 3 points. And that is called problem, reaction, solution. The way you change cultures is using problem, reaction, solution. So these globalists, they cause a problem, be it terrorism or pandemic or global warming or whatever they want to come up with. And then they wait for our reaction. Our reaction as people tends to be the same. Oh no, we're all going to die. Somebody do something. And then they have the solution, a prepackaged, ready for us, usually involves more government control of our lives.
We're now in a position to start implementing the next part of our plan. We're now in a position to start implementing the next part of our plan. We're now in a position to start implementing the next part of our plan.
This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.
If someone had said to you in December that by April, millions of people all over the world would be infected with a mysterious new virus that has no vaccine, you'd think they were talking about a Hollywood script. It's happened so fast, it almost doesn't seem real.
Coronavirus pandemic.
Coronavirus pandemic.
Coronavirus.
Coronavirus.
The COVID-19 virus.
This horrible, invisible enemy.
The virus of the virus.
COVID-19.
The coronavirus.
COVID-19.
The apocalypse.
Well, most of us have never lived through anything like this.
No one is immune. It threatens all of us.
We're going to a different place, which is a new normal.
A new normal.
A new normal.
A new normal.
A dinner where your temperature is checked before you walk in.
A new normal.
New normal.
Embrace the new normals of social distancing and sheltering in place, all the physical isolation.
The new normal.
The new normal?
When we get out of the new normal and get to a new normal.
The new normal? This is the new normal.
If you want to go to a restaurant, you're going to have your temperature taken before you're allowed inside to dine. So that's just the new normal.
New normal.
This new normal is going to look very, very different.
Not normal, but a new normal.
Long lines for food becoming a new normal.
The new normal.
New normal. There will be a new normal.
A new normal.
New normal.
A new normal.
The new normal.
A new normal.
This is the new normal.
This is our new normal.
Our new normal.
A new normal.
Our new normal.
New normal.
The new normal.
Our new normal.
We will transition into the new normal. And this new normal is just the normal of future generations.
All of us should be able to name all the people we've been in close contact with over the last 2 weeks as a new normal.
Our new normal.
The new normal.
Our new normal.
Our lives will never be the same.
The new normal.
This new normal.
I think everyone's life is completely disrupted. You know, your normal pattern of go to meetings, watch sports events.
And no normalcy as we knew it.
This is not going to go away anytime soon.
This will be the new normal until a vaccine is developed.
The vaccine.
Vaccine.
A vaccine.
The vaccine for this terrible virus.
An amazing vaccine to the entire world.
The world awaits a vaccine.
The vaccine.
The vaccines.
The thing that'll get us back is the vaccine.
Until we have a vaccine.
Zero tolerance. So every time we see a case, we basically pounce on it.
A vaccine.
The vaccine.
The vaccine.
The vaccine.
To all 7 billion people.
Almost every expert agrees a vaccine is the fastest way to get our world back.
You know, it's so important to get not just hundreds of millions, but literally billions of those vaccines.
Legislative amendments that would make vaccinations mandatory for public school students unless they have a medical exemption.
The vaccine is the thing that will change things.
It's a vaccine.
It's a vaccine.
A vaccination.
A COVID-19 vaccine.
A vaccine.
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 The vaccine is critical, very broad vaccination.
Vaccine.
The vaccine.
The vaccine.
On the issue of the vaccine, which you've said in the past could take a year to 18 months, will we have to wait for a vaccine to hug our family and friends who are outside of our bubble?
A vaccine.
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 Who's a recovered person? Who's a vaccinated person? Because you don't want people moving around the world. So eventually there will be sort of this digital immunity proof that will help facilitate the global reopening up.
Zero tolerance.
The RFID microchip.
Apple and Google announced new technology that could help. Phones ping other phones around them with their location.
In Hangzhou, to enter a tower block, you need to have your temperature taken and registered. And you must have an app on your phone into which you input your name, temperature, recent travel and ID number. The information generates a color code.
Our new normal.
A new normal.
Our new normal.
New normal.
The new normal.
Our new normal.
When you were talking about the phases, the semi-normal phase that you spoke of, that sounded like months and months of that. If a vaccine is still not until 2021, that's many, many months of this new normal.
That's right.
A new normal.
New normal.
A new normal.
The new norm.
A new normal.
This is the new normal.
This is our new normal.
An invisible enemy. Think of that.
Thank you.
And what about that trade-off? You just mentioned, obviously, the economic pain. What do you think the right balance is between the trade-off of protecting people's lives and the economic hit? I mean, do you see a situation where the global economy could be virtually at a standstill for a year or even more?
Well, it won't go to zero, but it will shrink. Global GDP is going to take, probably the biggest hit ever. Maybe the Depression was worse, or 1873. I don't know. But in my lifetime, this will be the greatest economic hit. But you don't have a choice. People act like you have a choice. People don't feel like going to the stadium when they might get infected. It's not the government who's saying, okay, just ignore this disease. And, people are deeply affected by seeing these deaths, by knowing they could be part of the transmission chain, and old people, their parents, their grandparents could be affected by this. And so you don't get to say ignore what's going on here. There will be the ability, particularly in rich countries, to open up if things are done well over the next few months. But for the world at large, normalcy only returns when we've largely vaccinated the entire global population. And so, although there's a lot of work on testing, a lot of work on drugs that we're involved with, trying to achieve that ambitious goal, which has never been done for the vaccine, that rises to the top of the list.
In 2010, the deep state had the Rockefeller Foundation script a plan to introduce martial law and a permanent method for total control of the citizenry. In this plan that they disguised as an academic scenario, as they called it, the method they would use to gain complete prison-like control of the entire population was to infect them with a devastating biological pandemic, and then, under the guise of protecting us from this threat, they would be free to implement their final solution, a prison state. The prison state that they need to keep their grip on power. As usual, the fascists disguise their crimes as helping us, and as is typical of this new type of fascism, they always make the claim that we the people are begging them to have more and more control over us. As you watch this video, remember that the deep state concocted this scheme in 2010 as a quote-unquote simulation of what is to come. The following is proof that the deep state is behind these viral pandemics. Absolutely positively, pandemics are now the tool of choice for the fascists, known as the deep state, and the private contractors that they contract these pandemics out to. For the deep state, to make an international pandemic isn't even a high-tech operation, it's a no-tech operation. It's easy. a simple vial of Ebola, SARS, MERS, Spanish flu, or coronavirus, or whatever they come up with in their secret bioweapons lab, is all they need to bring the world into their total control. The only thing you have to remember is if they can do it, they will do it, which means they already have done it.
The ruling establishment has a lot of, they will stop at nothing to complete their toolkit of control, right? So one of the things that has been missing from the toolkit of total control has been quarantines and curfews, right? So now, welcome to the new world in America, where to get on a bus, to go through a subway station, if you think that the procedures at the TSA are onerous, right? Guess this is coming to a bus depot near you. It's a more invasive way, and the ruling class needs this because, let me say, if the ruling class ever saw wide-scale civil unrest, you'd see an Ebola outbreak in America right away.
Okay, so this is, what you see is that Ebola is
another tool in the toolbox of the ruling class to control. Yeah,
to keep down
absolutely,
repression.
positively, 100%. This is a tool.
Right.
Ebola doesn't just magically start spreading. And then we have this doctors that come back here. The white people, of course, live. The two whites who got it or survived. All the black people that get it die. Right? It's very possible that these one of these NGOs over there is going around with a veil of Ebola or spreading it from a small plane onto villages. The point is to get hundreds of thousands of people infected with it and create the next phase of control. Now, one of the things I'd like to show to back up my my claims here. Here's a document from the Rockefeller Foundation. Rockefeller Foundation, right there. You can zoom in on that, where my finger is. It's called Scenarios for the Future International Development, the Rockefeller Foundation. All right. Okay. Let's take a look at what they're saying here. This is something like a 50, 60-page document. I'd like you to go to page 18, if you can look at this up on the internet, but I'll read it off to you. It's called lockstep, lockstep. And this is a phrase that I used right after 2001 when I saw the entire system of the United States, including the population, were in lockstep. So the Congress went along, and yes, it was Osama bin Laden, and the people waved their flag and said, I hate, 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 and everything was in lockstep. Well, in 2010, they published this, Rockefeller Foundation, and here's what they're saying. They're saying that they call it a scenario. These are scenario narratives, and they speak about it in the past tense. So they put out this scenario, lockstep. A world of tighter, top-down government control and more authoritarian leadership with limited innovation and growing citizen pushback. Okay, I'll read a little bit of it. In 2012, the pandemic that the world had been anticipating for years, nobody was anticipating a pandemic, finally hit. Unlike 2009's H1N1, this new influenza strain originating from wild geese, they use some scenario, but this is Ebola they're talking about. Even the most pandemic-prepared nations were quickly overwhelmed when the virus streaked around the world, infecting nearly 20% of the global population and killing 8 million in just 7 months, the majority of them healthy young adults. The pandemic also had a deadly effect on economies. You can see the agenda. Just naked, raw, naked control agenda written down, and it's anybody's guess how this becomes effectuated in real life. So whether this is written specifically as marching orders or whether people take it upon themselves in the intelligence networks to say, okay, well, this has been produced, so this is the plan here. But these narratives have to be written in advance because the intelligence agencies don't know how to do these narratives. They need help. So these think tanks, they come up with these, like Rand Corporation, Rockefeller Foundation. These are think tanks of death. They're not the think tanks, they're not there to find great ways to help people. Right? Okay, the pandemic also had a deadly effect on economics. International mobility of both people and goods screeched to a halt. which is what they want. They want a completely isolated world, right? Debilitating industries like tourism and breaking global supply chains. Well, of course they want tourism stopped because they're not in the tourism business, and they want you at home in your house in front of the TV. Then they got you, because once you watch the TV, they own your soul. Even locally.
Wait a second, we're on television.
I mean commercial television, let's say. National. Even locally, normally bustling shops and offices sat empty for months. Okay, so I love how they talk about it in the past tense in 2010. Right? The pandemic blanketed the planet, though disproportionate numbers in Africa died. Southeast Asia and Central America, where the virus spread like wildfire.
It sounds like the opening monologue of a disaster movie, right?
Exactly. Now listen, here's the good stuff now. But even in developed countries, containment was a challenge. Now here's this one. I love this one. The United States' initial policy of strongly discouraging, in quotation marks, strongly discouraging citizens from flying proved deadly in its leniency. So they're saying, that...
No, keep going. Read it.
Proved deadly in its leniency. So they should have been tougher, right? Accelerating the spread of the virus, not just within the United States, but across borders. However, a few countries did fare better. China in particular. The Chinese government's quick imposition and enforcement of mandatory quarantine for all citizens, as well as its instant and near hermetic sealing off of all borders, saved millions of lives, stopping the spread of virus far earlier than in other countries. So the message is here is we have to look towards the Chinese, the oppressive totalitarian Chinese regime as an example of what we need to be doing here. And of course, the ruling class here loves the Chinese regime because they have demonstrated to the ruling class the most efficient form of capitalism, which is authoritarian capitalism. So we have capitalism, but unfortunately we have this veil.
I get it.
We have this veil of democracy.
This is very interesting. This is continue on.
Okay. China's government was not the only one that took extreme measures to protect its citizens from risk and exposure. During the pandemic, national leaders around the world flexed their muscles, flexed their authority, and imposed airtight rules and restrictions. You can see the agenda.
Go.
Okay. From the mandatory wearing of face masks to body temperature checks at the entries to communal spaces like
that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, but soon it's going to be like body.
It'll be at the subway.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying? We'll be going through this in the subway to get on buses and the subway,
absolutely,
things
positively.
like that.
And what this means though is don't think about having a cigarette, a joint on you, or I mean, basically you can't. This is a dragnet for everything. So if in order for you
in other words, just like with stop and frisk, this is ultimate stop and frisk.
This is the ultimate cavity stop and frisk, cavity search kind of thing. All right, so during the pandemic, national leaders around there flex their authority. Now there's some good stuff. Listen to this. And even supermarkets, they want body checks at supermarkets. Okay, so basically what they're saying is they're building a system where every move you make, you got to go through them.
You can't get food. Well, how about if you go to the farmer's market?
Right. Here's the good stuff now. I mean, it just keeps getting better. Even after the pandemic faded, this more authoritarian control and oversight of citizens and their activities stuck. And even intensified. That's the whole point. So they're going to get rid of...
Did that happen already with 9/11?
Of course.
9/11 was how many, 14 years ago, and we still have all these draconian rules.
So they're going to put the body cavity
USA,
searches
Patriot, and all that stuff.
That's right. So in order to get to a supermarket, you got to have a body cavity search, and then when there's no more Ebola, well, you know what? We kind of like this way because we have an complete infrastructure of a control grid. In order to protect themselves from the spread of increasingly global problems, from pandemics and national terrorism to environmental crisis and rising poverty, leaders around the world took a firmer grip on power. Well, what the hell would rising poverty have anything to do with imposing strict citizen controls with face masks? So they're very sloppy stuff here. At first, the notion of a more controlled world gained wide acceptance and approval. I'm sorry. Nobody likes this stuff. They're just saying it.
Continue on.
No, I have to provide analysis.
Only because we only have 5 minutes left, so that's.
Oh my God. Okay. Citizens willingly gave up some of their sovereignty and their privacy to more paternalistic states in exchange for greater safety and stability. I mean, that's just a complete naked contradiction to the famous saying that if you think you're going to give up a little bit of security, I mean, if you're going to give up your freedom for security, you're going to get neither. That's the long-standing thing. And here what they're doing is they're not even ashamed or embarrassed to absolutely say the exact opposite. They're saying, yes, we all want to give up our privacy and sovereignty for more stability and security and stability. So you don't get that. When you give it up like that, you get the shaft.
Can you show us the cover again of what you were just reading?
One more time, and then I have two more documents.
Right, this is what we were reading here, and just zoom in a little bit so folks can see it. He'll zoom in, don't worry, you can relax.
All right.
And scenarios for the future of technology and international development.
Okay, now I have two more documents. Keep it zoomed. We have the National Security Memorandum of December 10th, 1974. This is Henry Kissinger's brainchild. The National Security Memorandum number 200. You can look that up on your internet. I'll summarize it. He says that there's too many people, we got to get rid of the population. So to answer your question.
From earlier.
Yeah, he says, he used the word depopulation, which is different. Depopulation means killing people that already exist, and it's to get the minerals, because we need the minerals. And here's another one. The CDC has a patent on Ebola. They patented it. Yeah? Right. So basically, if you want to get a cure for your Ebola,
it says it right up here, right? It says human Ebola virus species and compositions and methods thereof, and it's a patent.
It's a patent. They patented the main strain plus something like 17 other strains of it. So they own it now, and I don't know how exactly you can own that, but apparently they've done the same thing.
Yeah, I didn't think you could own a natural.
Yeah, you can. I guess the main thing to finish off this show is this: that they want to get more control, more and it's going to be curfews and quarantines. So what I'm saying is that unless the American people start to get some new way to revolt, a new way to organize, new way to protest, unless we can break through the apathy, because that's what we have here, then it's going to be a slave state here. The ruling class doesn't seem to have too much resistance. They're getting everything on their Christmas shopping list, and they've been wanting quarantines and curfews for a long time. Now they got it. And if you want to live in a world where you're tricked into all this stuff because it's for your safety, right? And if you want to have a probe and make sure you got to check your pockets, make sure you don't have anything incriminating on you before you go out, and when you step out of your house, you want some police there to monitor and see what you're doing. If that's the world you want to live in, be apathetic, don't do anything. You're going to get that world very soon. It's coming your way, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what should people do? What's the hope? You have 30 seconds.
To wake up, learn about it, and go fight these bastards in Washington. They're easy to beat. If we can just organize, we can beat them. It's simple. They're weak, and there's so few of them.
When I think of the great scientific revolutions of the past, print, the steam engine, aviation, the atomic age, I think of new tools that we acquired, but over which we, the human race, had the advantage, which we controlled. And that is not necessarily the case in the digital age. You may keep your secrets from your friends, from your parents, your children, your doctor, even your personal trainer. But it takes real effort to conceal your thoughts from Google. And if that is true today, in future, there may be nowhere to hide. Smart cities will pullulate with sensors, all joined together by the Internet of Things. Bollards communing invisibly with lampposts, so there is always a parking space for your electric car, so that no bin goes unemptied, no street unswept, and the urban environment is as antiseptic as a Zurich pharmacy. But this technology could also be used to keep every citizen under round-the-clock surveillance. A future Alexa will pretend to take orders, but this Alexa will be watching you, clucking her tongue and stamping her foot. In future, voice connectivity will be in every room and almost every object. Your mattress will monitor your nightmares, your fridge will beat for more cheese, your front door will sweep wide the moment you approach like some silent butler, your smart meter will go hustling of its own accord for the cheapest electricity, and every one of them minutely transcribing your every habit in tiny electronic shorthand, stored not in their chips or in their innards, nowhere you can find it, but in some great cloud of data that lowers ever more oppressively over the human race. A giant, dark thundercloud waiting to burst, and we have no control over how or when the precipitation will take place. And every day that we tap on our phones or work on our iPads, as I see some of you are doing now, we not only leave our indelible spoor in the ether, but we are ourselves becoming a resource, click by click, tap by tap. Can these algorithms be trusted with our lives and hopes? Should the machines, and only the machines, decide whether or not we are eligible for a mortgage or insurance, or what surgery or medicines we should receive? Are we doomed to a cold and heartless future in which computer says yes or computer says no, with the grim finality of an emperor in the arena? How do you plead with an algorithm? How do you get it to see extenuating circumstances? And how do we know that the machines have not been insidiously programmed to fool us or even to cheat us? There are today people who are still actually anti-science, a whole movement called the anti-vaxxers, who refuse to acknowledge the evidence that vaccinations have eradicated smallpox, and who, by their prejudices, are actually endangering the very children they want to protect. And I totally reject this anti-scientific pessimism. I'm profoundly optimistic about the ability of new technology to serve as a liberator and to remake the world wondrously and benignly. Indeed, in countless respects, technology is already doing just that. Nanotechnology, I mentioned earlier, revolutionizing medicine by designing robots a fraction of the size of a red blood cell, capable of swimming through our bodies, dispensing medicine and attacking malignant cells like some Star Wars armada. Neural interface technology is producing a new generation of cochlear implants, allowing the gift of hearing to people who would otherwise not be able to hear the voices of their own children. A London technology company has worked out how to help the blind to navigate more freely with nothing more than an app on their smartphones. At stake is whether we bequeath an Orwellian world designed for censorship and repression and control, or a world of emancipation, debate and learning, where technology threatens famine and disease, but not our freedoms.
The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.
The aim of Test, Track and Trace is to hunt down and isolate the virus so it's unable to reproduce.
So I hear this, the very first thing he says, and I'm like, what the fuck? What are you on about, Matt? Are we on about the same thing? Test, Track, Trace, the mobile phone app. Because a mobile phone app can't track down, hunt down, stop a virus reproducing. It can't do any of those things. I'm thinking, what is this double-speak bollocks? It sounds as if they're actually just hunting down us, humans, not a fucking virus. A mobile phone app can't hunt down a virus, bro.
And crucially, Test, Track and Trace allows us to take a more targeted approach to lockdown while still safely containing the disease.
Right, all jokes aside now, I mean, we know the use of words and how they're used very specifically, especially in these circumstances here. And we can tell because he's reading it really intensely off that script every couple seconds. It's not coming from the heart at all. But he says here that it gives us more of a targeted approach. Now what he's alluding to is more of a relaxed lockdown, but still maintaining the same effectiveness in terms of relieving stress from the NHS and protecting ourselves personally. But what he says isn't that. He says take a more targeted approach. So again, what he's alluding to really, in my opinion, is targeting individuals.
Creating this system is a huge national undertaking of unprecedented scale and complexity.
So even on the most basic level, even if you're not thinking that the government lies to you or misleads you, whatever, you can tell and see clearly how misled we are, you know. He's telling us how big a thing this is, how much of a massive, massive operation it is, yet none of us know about it until it's getting implemented and it's ready to go out there.
We've already taken Britain's small but brilliant diagnostics industry and taken it to global scale.
Oh, have you? We wouldn't know anything about that, Matthew.
We're building an army of human contact tracers who can man the phones and find the contacts and support people.
What the fuck does that mean? It sounds like 77th Brigade on fucking steroids. What the fuck?
And of course, we're developing the contact tracing app, which can help us deliver test, track and trace on the mass scale that we need across the country.
How many people are going to download this app and be happy to do that rather than take a fucking shot in the arm? It's mental what's going on and what they're doing. This seems like a much more passive, cool option for the kids, you know? It reminds me of that whole Go generation thing with this Go Vote Ben Fellows fucking bullshit. It's mad.
The app, which takes full consideration of privacy and security.
Like, whose privacy and security? Mine? The government's? And I think the next statement after this is telling us to that, but you look at this guy's eyes as he says it, literally, just rewind it up, I'll play it again. But whose privacy and security? The fuck?
The app, which takes full consideration
of privacy and security,
has already been tested in closed conditions at an RAF base.
Black Ops.
And today I can announce the next steps. From tomorrow, we will begin to pilot test, track and trace on the Isle of Wight, starting with health professionals and rolling out this week to all citizens.
This is what I'm telling you. How he seems pretty fucking sure that all citizens are going to have this application. He seems pretty sure about it. How he's so sure, I don't know. But I'm telling you, this shit is just as dangerous as any vaccination. This is the new world right here.
I'm grateful to the huge enthusiasm shown by islanders who know that by participating in this pilot, they're at the forefront of helping get Britain back on her feet.
This is textbook Goebbels style propaganda at its finest. And how the masses aren't seeing it, I've got no idea, but what fucking islanders is he seen and spoke to, like members of general public, during this whole mental pandemic where he's on the TV every day? Who's he contacted and spoke to who's really enthusiastic about getting this app that no one's fucking heard about until now? And that whole vile, patriotic type thing. And I don't know about the Channel Islands funds, but I bet with their local government and whatnot, the Conservative government don't give two shits about them, but when they want them to be guinea pigs for this new control testing fucking app situation, yeah, they're right at the front line. Big up all the islanders. We love you islanders. It's all about getting her back on her feet, you know? Such 1940s-esque basic propaganda. It's just disgusting to me.
Where the Isle of Wight goes, Britain follows. The island has a single NHS trust, one local authority with the responsibilities for public health, a relatively low number of COVID cases, and because it's an island, we can run this trial in proper scientifically controlled conditions, comparing the effect with with what's going on the mainland before we roll it out to the rest of the country. So here's how it'll work. Last week we put in place the testing capability on the island. From tonight, the contact tracing capability will go live, and then tomorrow, NHS staff on the island will be able to download the app. And from Thursday, each one of the 80,000 households on the island will get a letter from the chief nurse with comprehensive information about the trial. Islanders will then be asked to install the app. Once you've installed the app, it'll start logging the distance between your phone and other phones with an app nearby.
So this is what I'm saying. What happens when you're someone that doesn't want to download the app? Does that automatically make you someone that's going to put others at risk? Because, I mean, one of us, even if we do download the app, if they know our thoughts towards this so-called pandemic, then what happens if we download the app and, I don't know, you've been in contact or near someone that's supposedly tested positive, but then you're not going to wear a mask, you're someone that doesn't want to wear gloves, you're someone that doesn't practice, you know, fucking putting hand sanitizer, alcohol and shit all over your hands all the time, stripping it of all its natural oils and that, stripping your immune system of its natural barriers. What if you're someone that doesn't do that? Then what? Are you someone that is going to put others at risk, likely to contaminate others? You know, is that a means for detention then? Because it would seem that the legislation implies that.
It's been designed with a form of Bluetooth that conserves power so the app won't drain your battery.
So again, I'm not no computer, mobile phone technology expert, but to me this implies one or two things. Either they're going to require you to have your Bluetooth switched on, or this software has the ability to either manipulate and change your hardware or just infiltrate your hardware, which doesn't really ring true to his comments about privacy and security being cool.
And this log of proximity information will then be securely stored on your phone.
So yeah, the implications to these things, as we can see, are mental. What does that mean? If it's on my phone, how is it of any use to any medical expert? Do they have access to my phone? Am I going to be expected to go and give it in or show it to some certain authorities at certain specific times? What are the implications of this is so intense.
If you become unwell with COVID symptoms, you inform the NHS via the app. Other app users who you've had significant contact with in the last few days will then be sent an alert by the NHS along with advice about what to do. A test ordering function will then be built in. If you're watching this and you live on the Isle of Wight, I have a simple message. Please download the app to protect the NHS and save lives.
Yeah, and in true propaganda style, basic fashion, Goebbels-esque type mind control, manipulation of emotion type bullshit. Save the NHS, save lives, it's all on you people. Do as we say, or you're putting lives at danger. You know, you don't do as we tell you and you're basically a murderer. Don't forget that.
Should the machines, and only the machines, decide whether or not we are eligible for a mortgage or insurance, or what surgery or medicines we should receive? Are we doomed to a cold and heartless future in which computer says yes or computer says no, with the grim finality of an emperor in the arena?
This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.